Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Cammie from Oceans of Slumber. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So a couple of days and the album is out. Are you excited? I'm sure you're excited, but how excited are you?
Pretty excited. We've had a lot of teasers and singles, and so we're ready for everybody to just have the whole thing.
It's a little bit bittersweet, isn't it? Like the album comes out and then you guys can't hit the road, you can't play shows, you can't tour. That must be a little bit upsetting, but at the same time, there's still a lot of excitement because obviously new material and you want the fans to hear it.
Yeah, it's been that way all summer, really since the singles started. It's been pretty depressing to not be out on the road and kind of, amping it up and getting that face-to-face reaction. But I guess this is the peak of that sadness.
This is when it becomes a realization that this is actually happening and we're not hitting the road.
Yeah, because now would be the full, album cycle into tours, where we would get to do the majority of the songs being the new songs, and so the idea of potentially not touring them within the first however long to begin with is kind of daunting. So yeah.
You guys decided to name the album Oceans of Slumber, so self-titling the album. Normally when a band does that, there's always a little bit of an impact behind it, or they're celebrating a very long career that they've had. What's the reason behind you guys going with that title for this album?
I guess what I've seen is it's either at the very beginning or it's somewhere towards the end. For us, it was, we approach every album as it potentially being our last. We had undergone a lot of transition and finally had kind of found this stride and wanted to sort of put a mark on it, put a stamp on it with where we were and the transition that we had survived, and this sort of confident step forward with what we were doing.
What do you feel was the biggest changes for you guys from the 3 previous records to this album now?
Well, our lineup for
the
main one.
Musically, I was referring more musically.
No, I know.
There's change.
I don't feel like there's necessarily a change. I think that we kind of took aspects that we had done and brought them back. The Banished Heart was incredibly doom heavy. It was a lot more dragging and a lot more intense. Whereas with this album, we kind of brought back a little bit of that eclectic arrangement kind of seen on Winter. We kept it heavy, maybe a bit more death metal than the previous album, but mostly just doing better what we've done in the past.
How do you guys approach an album like this from a creative process? Like, do you guys sit down and you guys have like a pyramid or like a flow chart or a pie chart? Like, how does Oceans of Slumber approach creatively putting together an album like this?
Things are very conversational. They kind of start with a pillar of ideas or songs that I kind of call pillars of the album, and the other songs are kind of worked off of that. It's all the mastermind of Dauber. It comes from his initial response to a sound or book or documentary or whatever experience is coming up, and he sort of creates this landscape from there and these themes, and then he branches them out to the rest of us, and we build off of that.
Is that a long process for you guys, or is that something that you guys, being used to how you work now, you can move it a little bit quicker?
We all write incredibly quickly. So the songs, we're already working on the next album. Any downtime goes to just being creative. So there's always songs, and with the new guys, there's tons of songs, and so we sort of pick themes and put them together. They go through their own, I guess, archive of songs and things now, and have brought a lot of new stuff to the table, and so it's incredibly fast.
Well, the new guys, they're a great addition to the band because the result is there. The album is absolutely phenomenal. I've said this already. This is your best album to date. I know a lot of people always say that about the latest record, but no bullshit. This is really the best album to date. It is absolutely magnificent. how easy it was for those guys to kind of merge into the spirit of what it is to be Oceans of Slumber.
I think incredibly easy. One thing that made it beneficial was that they were fans of the band before getting into the band, so they knew, what we stood for and what we were going for. And then as the album was coming together, they, grew and contributed, and we all kind of got to know each other through making an album. So, they're the attitude that they bring, their own dark qualities that they bring. Like we've been incredibly happy with the relationships that we've formed with the new guys.
You said it earlier that you always approach every album like it's your last, and with all the turmoil and all the changes that have happened with the band, does this one have more of that special feeling, like you can't even believe it's here? Because at one point perhaps you thought that it was never going to happen.
It's more so like we put our all into the writing process. Once we decided we were going to push on with the old members leaving, we figured we had what we needed to make sure that we got to that next album, we got to that next step. It's more in the aspect, I guess, of overall survival. It's just hard with life and finances and touring and labels to just keep any band afloat, and then you add a pandemic and everything's upside down. So
I know, like musicians' life was not hard enough. Now you add this into the mix. Let's throw another wrench into a never well-oiled machine. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. But you guys have a great record on your hands, and to me, the sound on this album, you touched a little bit on it. It's definitely very eclectic. Were you guys worried about the fluidity of the record as far as going from one track to the other, considering how different the tracks are? There's some elements that really glue the album together, but overall, when you look at the sound of the album, it really goes in a lot of different directions.
Not really. We everything kind of comes up organically, and how the album's spaced out, how the songs are placed is all deliberated over plenty before the final order of the album's kind of chosen. How we write and the musicality that we have at hand is very broad. We write everything to be in service of the song, and if it's there, then it's because it feels right and it balances it out for us.
Does this album show a little bit more growth for you personally? Never mind the band, but for you personally, when you look at this album, do you feel like you're a much different person on this record, and that comes across in the music?
I do. A lot has changed for me between Banished and this album. I think of any member, I have the biggest transitions of life and sort of perspective and experiences from each album to each album. I definitely dove into getting my first kind of go at formal training and honing in on my voice. I really wanted to flex a little bit more and show my range and show my strength to my voice. And so I do think that this album, it reached places for me vocally that I maybe sought but weren't fully satisfied with, maybe like with the Banished Heart and Winter previously. So it's definitely kind of at this point really knowing what I'm doing in the studio, knowing what I'm doing with mic control, knowing what I'm doing with my voice, taking care of my voice, and then kind of having the scars of tour, so to speak, of really knowing my instrument in and out. So
I felt that your performance on this record was really, like, we talked about how eclectic the sound is, but I felt that your voice and your performance was really the glue that held the album together, because musically the album is changing, but your level of proficiency stays exactly the same from the beginning to the end. Like, you don't drop at all. The quality is like always at a very high level, and you had this very soulful performance on every single track. Like, those words meant something to you on every song. There was a deep impact for me as a listener. I felt the energy, the pain, the suffering, the emotions that the lyrics were carrying for you, and you had a very soulful outwards performance. Do you feel that way about this record from your voice?
For me, yeah, when I write, it's like I take every song very seriously. We don't really write happy music, and so it's coming from a place that's pretty raw. And one of the main outlets for me in life is being able to get things out, like through my singing. That if I can't do that, then I'm not very happy and I'm not very satisfied. Like every song needs to feel like something's purging when I perform it, and so that's really what I sought with this album and with these recordings.
Do you feel like you're pretty much a little bit exposed as far as who you are when you do that, when you create songs like that, and the way you put the energy and all the emphasis in it?
Yeah, I guess in a good way though. It's kind of a channeling. I like to think that if other people don't feel as free to kind of get those emotions out, that I help them vicariously maybe live through me. But it's very therapeutic, and it's definitely like a necessity.
I want to ask you about a couple of songs, and I also want to ask your take on what your favorite tracks are. But I want to start off with "Pray for Fire." That song blew me away. I had like goosebumps the first time I heard that track. It was just beautiful, beautiful, and very emotional. How was the construction? How do you guys put together "Pray for Fire"?
So that's all Dauber. Um, I stay away from the tracks until they're finished, and then I just input my vocal melodies. But from what I recall, and him working on that song, so that's like what I would call one of the pillar songs for the album. It's like one of the main uh, focus points of the album, and one of the most cinematic parts of the album. I know that when he created that, he really wanted to take it to be a journey, and to take it through this landscape that fully created this atmosphere around the listener. Um, I mean, it's an incredible track that has such big highs and lows. When I first listened to it, like I traveled through that song, and it was a monster to think about taking it on. But with all of the valleys and things that it kind of gave me, it allowed me to do a lot of different vocal techniques and vocal things throughout the song. And so, that was incredibly exciting. I get these big pieces from him, and it's at first I'll be all like grumpy and overwhelmed, and I have to sit with them, and it's like, what a challenge. But it turns into something that I feel like takes over your perception for that moment, and that's that song.
The other song I wanted to ask you about is "Total Failure Apparatus." I think it's the heaviest track on the album. Do you agree?
Yes. I mean, I guess I weight heavy in different ways, and I guess,
Music. I mean, in terms of the sound, it felt like a sledgehammer
well,
freaking
I
sense.
I would for me it's adorned fathomless creation.
You feel that one is heavier.
Yeah. I also forget the names of my own songs.
I just find it interesting that we're listening to the same tracks, right? But two different people will have two different ideas of what they feel like it's the heaviest song for them. I find it very interesting. It just shows you how beautiful music is and art is. That depending on where you're coming from and your own baggage that you have in your life, you can listen to the same thing and have two completely different views on the same subject.
Yeah, absolutely. Music's incredibly subjective that way. And then what someone's sort of experiences of what they feel like is heavy, and what they have like connotated that idea to, would be different.
Yeah.
I think whatever background musically that you come from, my mom thinks everything on the album's heavy. So
I, my wife feels the same way. She listens to Caribbean music, so for her,
yeah,
my wife is from the Caribbean, so for her, everything that I play in the house is extremely heavy.
yeah, well, yeah,
So it's all about perception.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite song on this album?
My favorite is To the Sea, and then the Typo cover.
Yeah, that was a very good way of finishing the album.
Oops, sorry, a notification. Can you travel with me real quick?
Yeah.
I'm cooking little veggie nuggets for a little girl. I don't want to burn them. Here we are. It's a quick cooking show.
Oh, you're cooking?
There they go. There you see them?
Oh, we're getting more than what we paid for.
It's all how to cook veggie nuggets and the.
I didn't even know there was such a thing as veggie nuggets. I've learned something today.
They're by Kjorn.
Oh,
They're really good. If you've ever had like children's chicken nuggets, they're identical. I'm pretty sure that they're just not feeding children meat. Is my summary.
Yeah, I had no idea that was even a thing. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I had chicken nuggets. Not even from McDonald's, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're all mush, but this one's veggie mush.
Yeah. Well, at least it's perhaps a little bit healthier.
Yeah, that's the plan, or that's the idea.
Well, you have to stay healthy. Like during this quarantine, I know for sure I've gained a bunch of weight. I've gained a bunch of COVID weight during this quarantine. So whatever you can do to stay healthy, I'm all for it. I haven't found whatever that is for me. But yeah. if it's veggie chicken nuggets or veggie nuggets, it wouldn't be chicken because they're veggie. But if it's veggie nuggets,
we call them fake chicken nuggets, or we call them sad nuggets. That's Dauber's name for them.
I'm sure if I told my son that he was going to have veggie nuggets for dinner, he would also agree that they would be very sad nuggets. I'm almost 100% sure of that. Getting back into, I love talking about food, but it's getting me hungry, and I want to ask you a couple more things about the album. Did this album offer you guys specific challenges that will then transport themselves into the way the songs are put together, and then you start thinking, okay, how am I going to perform this specific song in a live setting?
We do think about that plenty, but it just becomes a matter of changing the songs. We're the kind of band, we like to do the songs differently every night, or kind of improv or just switch it up. They're written with being performed live in mind, and we don't like to use backing tracks and things like that, so we'll just find a way. If it means switching it over to another instrument or adding additional instruments or whatever it needs to be, then we just figure out a way to bring it to life.
What plans do you guys have now that the album is going to be out this Friday, September 4th? I've lost track of the days, to be honest with you. Since this whole pandemic started, every day seems like it's the same day. I'm just leaving. It's like a Groundhog Day all over again.
It is. I thought it was Friday all week, so that's.
Yeah, for me, every day is Friday because I work from home, so every day is Friday. But the album comes out September 4th. What are you guys' plans as far as promoting the record? Are you guys thinking of a live stream or something along those lines, since you can't really do an album release party?
Yeah, definitely some live footage. Quality over being live is my main focus, so it may not be a live stream, but it's definitely live footage of us doing the songs, and then some Q&A. I may get vetoed, who knows, but something live for us to live time to be to have that engagement and everything, and then with a band together, like performing. But my cell phone's not going to capture what I want for us to do a live performance. So
yeah, the tribe has spoken and they voted you out. Is that what you're afraid of?
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna be live. I was like, fine, I'll do what I have to do. But I'm not, the cell phones only go so far.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think quality over live is really important, because you want to make sure that the songs are represented well.
Yeah, that's the first time everyone sees us doing live, and they're all boop 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 boop.
Yeah, like and everything pixelating and freezing. I always, when it comes to these kind of things, I always take like something that I heard. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that Michael Jordan used to say that he used to play every game like if it was his last, because people paid money to see him play, And he wanted those people to leave feeling like they got their money's worth and they saw Michael Jordan play like Michael Jordan. Like he didn't want people to leave saying, wow, he really sucked today. Maybe he's not as good as people think he is. You know what I mean? So I feel like something like this, it kind of works that way. You never know who's going to watch that performance for the first time, and it's their first time seeing Oceans of Slumber.
Right, I agree. You know, I will want to go into it the same way we go into live performances, and it's pretty much with that premise. You know, I got a quick look at like, oh, well, these, you know, live shows are recorded and live shows have photographs, and it's like if I'm half-assed, it's immortalized. So I don't really want that. So yeah, we try and approach every show, and we don't, you know, the live or streaming wouldn't be any different.
I saw you guys, last time I saw you guys was back in, I think, 2018. You guys were playing in Toronto with Insomnium. You guys were on that tour. I left the show with a great impression. So if that makes you feel any better about that performance, yeah, because it was, I mean, there was no veggie nuggets.
They didn't get veggie nuggets
at the venue. But you guys put on an amazing show. I had heard a few songs before seeing you guys live on that show, and I was absolutely blown away by your performance on that day. What an incredible show you guys put on. So if this recording of a show is anything close to what I saw live, it's a winning formula.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what we're going for. So fingers crossed.
I have one more question for you, and then you can eat your nuggets. I don't want them cold. And that is, what are your, as a band, but you as well, what are your expectations for this record once it hits out and everybody starts listening to it? In the deepest spot of your heart, which is your expectations for the record?
I guess, you know, right, I feel like we've never written something more timely that encompasses so many different aspects of how so many people are feeling right now, that I really hope that it finds a place to kind of serve these troubled spots within everybody. You know, the conflict, the angst, the actual anger and violence around us, that the loss that people are experiencing or feeling, the isolation, the depression. It's like all these things come from our hearts to be put in this album to go out to everybody else. But it's like these songs are there to like serve everyone and to be a part of something that they need and that they can find kind of comfort in one way or another, whether it's catharsis to let those things out or validation for feelings that, you know, they feel like are unspoken or unacknowledged. You know, I think that this album is doing well so far and will continue to do well. And you know, I hope that these songs kind of supercharge people and become their kind of anthems right now to get through the rest of whatever the year holds and beyond.
I think the beauty of it is that for as much as the record hits the nail on the head right now, knowing what we are as humans, as a human race, I have a feeling that this is going to be an album that, I hope I'm wrong, but I think this is going to be an album that's going to resonate for many, many years, because we seem to never really learn from the mistakes of the past and keep repeating them in the future with just a new generation doing what older generations have done. So I hope I'm wrong from that perspective, but I really feel like what you guys added on this album has this long-lasting stretch of life in it.
Oh, thank you. And I agree. It's a painful relevance that some of these songs and the sentiment behind these songs have, that I can only hope that they become songs of the way things were, you know, versus some new kid song for the way that things are. So I agree.
Well, Cammie, thank you very much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. You guys have a great album on your hands, and your vocals on this album were majestic. I'm going to go with majestic.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.